Well, have the Lok Sabha elections in India become presidential battles, or have they always been presidential battles? Well, proof clearly is that there is no match for Prime Minister Modi. So what makes brand Modi all-powerful? We're joined now by Ashish Bhasin, Chairman and CEO of South Asia and CEO Greater South at Dentsu Aegis Network, and Shashi Sinha, the CEO of IPG Media Brands India. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Ashish, let me start by asking you, I mean, if the BJP is a company, then Prime Minister Modi is the hero brand, so to speak. Now, what do you think is working? You know, through 2014, it was about change, it was about development, sabka saath, sabka vikas. But in 2019, it has been all about the Prime Minister. You know, ab ki baar Modi Sarkar, fir ek baar Modi Sarkar, aayega to Modi hi. I mean, it's all been about leveraging the Prime Minister's popularity.
Well, you said that he's the hero brand. If it were a company, I would say that the company and the brand have now got intermingled, and it's hard to distinguish one from the other. I think the biggest thing that's worked for Modi, and that probably works for any good brand, whether personal brand or corporate brand, it is that he has been completely consistent. His communication has been absolutely clear, and he's listened. I think the biggest thing is that to be in touch with what your target audience wants. In his case, the target audience is the entire country. Somehow, through his mechanisms, he's managed to listen. One thing that we always underestimate is the power of distribution, which in this case is actually reaching out to the people. And I think there is no substitute for great distribution. And I was reading somewhere that between Amit Shah and Modi, they covered something like 300,000 kilometers, which means that they, just can you imagine how many millions of people that they must have met. So they've done everything right from in a copybook style that a good brand should do when it's marketing itself. And I think that's what's worked.
You know, Shashi, I want to pick up on that last point of distribution, because yes, we've seen them clock miles, you know, fly back and forth, cover the length and breadth of the country. But let's also talk about the technology aspect and the social media outreach, for instance. I mean, the messaging through WhatsApp groups, and I was seeing some mind-boggling number of WhatsApp groups that have been created and been run essentially by the volunteers of the BJP getting the message across. I mean, what do you make of the, not just the message, but the manner in which the message has been reinforced?
Absolutely. So if you compare with 2014, you know, what is intriguing, that our sense in 2019, they have not used mass media, which as we define as TV and print, as much as one would have expected them to do. It's all been social media, even on, you know, and it's all their army. Well,
they, you know, look, mass media was broadcasting, beaming him live.
So I meant in the conventional sense.
State, you're right. Rally after rally.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
so it is not
I
paid.
get what you're saying.
Yes, it's not paid media in that sense, and you know what we used to. But I think what is critical here, you know, all the stories were built by, as you said, the army and the social media, but they played a very strong emotional hand. And I feel India, you know, we see it for most brands which work, that there is a huge emotional connect with brands. What we are taught first is connect emotionally, and then the story will come. And I think this election, unlike maybe 2014, to a great extent is the emotional connect. He's gone out, they both have spoken a lot, you know, and every time they were attacked, they responded emotionally. They didn't respond rationally. So I think somewhere the fact that there is whole nationalism, strength, everything put together suited the narrative well. And they did a fabulous job. Bolstered by, as Ashish said, the armies on the ground, which, you know, either on the ground or through social media.
Right. You know, Ashish, I want to pick up on the point that Shashi just made there about this, you know, the emotional chord being struck. And, you know, there was a lot of skepticism, some degree of criticism as well on, for instance, the interview that was done with Akshay Kumar, and you know, how personalized it was, and what do you eat and what do you wear and so on and so forth. But do you believe that that has actually worked like magic, because it has helped the ordinary person make that almost personal connection with the Prime Minister? So you know, what could have been looked down upon has been a sort of marketing miracle almost for brand Modi.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that has been abundantly clear to me, at least, has been that how disconnected the intelligentsia in this country is with the sound on the ground, right? Everything that he was criticized for doing, including this interview that you're saying on Twitter and by certain type of people on media, actually probably worked towards getting him more endeared towards his target audience, which was, you know, everybody who's on the ground. The other bit is that today is an era of real-time agile marketing, and I think nobody can be better than him. So one example of that comes to mind is that the opposition party said that something to the effect that Chokidar chor hai. Now, just look how agile this brand was. Within minutes, that was turned into a huge strength by saying maybe Chokidar, and before you knew it, there were 1 million people on Twitter handles on everything. So I think it's that close to ground, close to ground, that agility, that real-time market response. Everything that you really aspire to do for a brand, I think he's shown all marketing gurus that this is how marketing should be done. And Shashi, sorry, and Shashi mentioned about bought. We look at media as bought, owned, and earned. Bought is what you buy, which he didn't have to buy too much, because the earned media, what others were talking about him, probably just outshouted all of that. Shashi was saying something.
Yeah. So I was saying.
No. Shashi, on that point that was made specifically in the context of the Chokidar slogan, I mean, this is a classic case of ambush marketing, right? I mean, this was the big attack launched by the opposition, and then you turn it around and almost make it as if it's your response.
That's absolutely, and it's linked to my point of emotion. There was no rationality into this, whether there was something with Rafael or not. It is all that, you're attacking a man whom we like. It goes back to your earlier point on Akshay, the interview with Akshay, that this is a soft side to him. He's a whole complete personality, as they say. And if I may add one thing to you, I don't have the details, and this is my hunch. You see, this time a lot more women have voted. And there is definitely a larger appeal for the Prime Minister with the women, my suspicion. My impression is that, so a lot more of them come out, and there's an emotional connect, a lot more women coming in. Also think about it, while he's stronger, but rural is where they won large. And I'm not sure whether it's right to say that Twitter is strong in rural India. So I somewhere feel this, what you said, the free space he got on television, all the stuff he did, I genuinely believe women, emotion, all this has worked.
The question now is, and let's present this as a marketing problem and a challenge to the two of you. And Ashish, I'll start by asking you. Tomorrow the Congress party is meeting, the CWC is meeting. Now, if somebody came to you with a brand problem, and that is the Congress today, what is it that you would do? I mean, you cannot try and take on the Prime Minister, because that position of credible, consistent delivery, strong, muscular, nationalistic, that position has now been taken. It's embodied by this man. What does the opposition do?
Well, you can never build your brand depending upon what your competition is doing. You've got to build your brand according to what your strengths are. I think if I were Congress, the first thing I would do is I would introspect and see what do I stand for. Most importantly, you've got to get out of denial, and you've got to listen. Obviously, there was a groundswell, there was something happening in the country which either they didn't listen to, or they didn't understand, or maybe they were listening, but sometimes you don't want to believe it. So first thing they should do is get those insights. Like Shashi was mentioning, emotional connect is very important. Before you can even form the emotional connect, you've got to understand that what is that insight that you're going for. Understand what are your strengths. I mean, surely there are some strengths they would have. Surely there are niches where they are strong, and try to build on those strengths. When you're falling off a cliff, you don't try to climb up. You first try to steady where you are, and then build it up step by step according to what your areas of strength are. And it will take time, but it's not an impossible task. It can be done.
Okay, Shashi, a quick word from you.
Yeah, so the cashier is there. If you see, it's not that they've got wiped out in terms of seats, but the votes are there. And they are a large party. So absolutely. So as Ashish said, build on your strengths, find out who voted for you, find out what they saw on you, look at niches, create segments for yourself. You have 5 years to work on it. Nothing will happen overnight. So the problem is, don't look at last year. Look at, brands are built over a period of time, not 2023. Is you start now, focus on the segments which you're creating for yourself and work on it. And I genuinely believe emotion, in a way, has to be answered with emotion. You can't be rational. Nyaya may be a damn good scheme, but if it unconnected, unconnect.
Yeah. Emotion has to be taken on the back of emotion. Shashi and Ashish, thanks very much for joining us here. That was the brand and the marketing take on analyzing Victory 2019. But with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of What's Up. Thanks very much for watching. Up next, we talk about the impact of the 2019 Lok Sabha elections on the